Operator's manual says that every class must open with prayer. Therefore, let's open with prayer. Father in heaven, I thank you for all of these folks, and I thank you for your work in their lives, in our lives. And I thank you that you've given us your word in writing. And I pray that you would help all of these ones here and the ones downtown tomorrow night to learn a lot more about your word and teaching and preaching your word, sharing your word from what we do together for this year. So we thank you. I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. So yeah, please do that. And should I give them a little bit of bio of myself? Okay, so my boys went to Perimeter Christian School with Dan's daughters. So while Dan's daughters were not getting in trouble, my boys were. But the older boy, Andrew's 36 and married, and we have a little granddaughter who's 11 and a half months old, and we're rather fond of her. And then Ben is 33. Andrew would not get caught doing things, and it's not like they were like young hooligans or something, but Ben, the younger one, he would always manage to get himself caught. So he's been, Bobby Scott's finishing up here. Ben has received lots from Bobby Scott, so he's received the highest of honors, being scored by Bobby Scott. Graduated from the University of Georgia in 1980. Married Renata. Next summer will be our 40th. Was ordained, worked in industry for a while, was ordained in 87, planted two churches, planted one in the late 80s, early 90s in North Carolina. Then was the single adults pastor here in the early 90s, and then planted a daughter church and pastored it for 11 years, and then went to Scotland to teach homiletics and work on a PhD in Old Testament. And then came back, and I was been teaching in Dallas. It was Westminster Theological Seminary, had a campus in Dallas that then became an independent institution, and then promptly went out of business. So, skipping a few details, it was an opportunity for us to move back. I help operate a theological seminary in St. Petersburg, Russia. So I work a lot on the U.S. side, and I teach over there. I spend a fair amount of time over there as well. So that's what my day job, all of the instructors here I think all of them have a day job. That's what mine is. And so I'm married to Renata, and I'm just delighted to be your teacher. We're going to hopefully learn a lot of good stuff here. And this is all of y'all. Yes, sir?
What's the state of the church in Russia?
Russia is 1.1% Protestant. So Russia is less Christian than Pakistan, Vietnam. I could give you a long list of unreached countries, and Russia is less reached. But it's kind of got a veneer because 79% of the population is Russian Orthodox. But as far as that really doesn't correlate much with actually knowing Jesus. So it's got a little veneer of Christianity over it, and it's got perhaps the awesomest Christian architecture in the world, or some of it at least. But the church it's oppressed and very small. So our seminary, I'll tell you more about it in the future. And anyway, check your name off here and make sure your data is correct. And if you're representing someone, then check them too. Okay? Thank you. So you can just start passing that. Where was I? Mine just. Anyway, it was very profound.
Oppressed in this.
It's a very oppressed. We have a little mini denomination called the Presbyterian Church of Eurasia. It's 6 church planters, 6 teaching elders, and then we also have our ministry model is based on 2-week intensives per year. So we fly the guys, and if we can afford it, fly their wives into St. Petersburg for intensives. We have, besides our little Reformed denomination, there's Pentecostals that come to our seminary, there are Baptists, there's all sorts of other evangelical folks because they like the systematic approach to the Bible, and they like the way our founder is really good at mentoring pastors, mentoring men. So all sorts of groups are attracted to it. I'll tell you more about it in the future. So check your name off and check your friend's name off if you're here representing or Skyping or telephoning someone in. Today we're going to learn the Hebrew alphabet, but first we're going to talk about the methodology that we're going to use during this class, and also going into the exegesis classes rolling into the future. And first we're going to sing the Hebrew alphabet song. First of all, because it's kind of silly. But second, you're using your mouth and your brain and your body and your ears to learn something that's really foreign. Studying Hebrew is like studying Martian or something. So actually, I left in a hurry and forgot my guitar. So if y'all are very well-behaved students, I'll bring my guitar next week and we can sing it with the guitar. So this is the incredible Hebrew alphabet song. And we're going to learn to write the letters today. There's 23 letters. And then we'll learn the vowels next meeting. But here it is, the incredible Hebrew alphabet song sung to the tune of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And all of y'all, I invite y'all to participate. This isn't rocket surgery here. And these are the names, and I think they're pronounceable. Are you ready? Okay. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Pei, Vav, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samik, Ayin, Pei, Tzadeh, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, and Tav. Hey, y'all did great. Yep. Yes, very good. Yes, very, very good. Let's look at the syllabus a wee bit. And I thought I was on the cutting edge of ministry technology. I did screenshots of the syllabus, but they're not all on the screen. So, have y'all read the syllabus? Syllabi are a big deal in this institution. I figured that out. So our description, we're not going to learn to read, open up your Hebrew Bible and just read. And if you ever wondered, this is what an old beat up one looks like. But we're going to learn to use logos and use tools that'll get you into understanding issues and making decisions and seeing why things are in the English versions the way they are. So this is called the primary literature, the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament. And then things that are written about this are called secondary literature. So technically logos would be a kind of, although it has the primary literature in it, there's a lot of mostly secondary literature. And we're going to learn to use, to access, and to understand the four most important kinds of secondary literature. And incidentally, you're not going to be tested on this. The quiz next week is the alphabet. So this is just backfilling information for y'all. As we look at, there's four key kinds of secondary literature. Grammars. There's some very detailed research grammars that have scripture indices in the back. And you can learn things about exegesis of your passage using research grammars if you understand the terminology that is being used. The second would be lexicons, and those are dictionaries. And then the third would be commentaries, and the fourth would be theological dictionaries, which are basically they're word studies on steroids, like the ultimate word study. So we're going to learn how to, this year, we're going to learn how to access and use with relative ease those four kinds of secondary literature. And being able to get into the primary literature, and the main way we're going to do that in this chopped off paragraph, the methodology that we're going to use, and this isn't like 100, sometimes we'll detour into other aspects, but the central methodology that we're going to use is when this bright gentleman gives you your class on how to use logos, the key is when he starts talking about how to set up parallel columns to where you have this version, this version, this version in Hebrew, and then to where if you click on something here, like if you have Isaiah 1:6 in the ESV here, and the Jewish Publication Society 1985 version, which is good. You've got these up where you click here and it all lines up to where you're looking at the same thing automatically. When he starts talking about that, y'all have my permission to snooze until he starts talking about that. And then you need to listen carefully, because that's going to be our bread and butter here for all the way through. And then to look at differences and similarities between those English versions and how to figure out what's important there, and then to dive into the Hebrew to figure out why the English versions either have the same pattern, similar pattern, or disagree with each other, what the issue is. And then we're going to learn how to figure out what's important and what's not from those, and then to write what I call, and this is a bridge between exegesis and homiletics, or preaching or leading a Bible study, what I call an exegetical summary paragraph. And that's where you take the detailed grammatical, linguistic, historical research that you've done, and you put it into one little paragraph where perhaps in 30 or 60 seconds, you're giving people the distilled essence of your research. Because one of the things when I worked for Randy, when I worked here way back in the days of leather football helmets, I remember Randy saying a sermon is talking to people about their lives from the Bible. And I know that not all of us feel called to be preachers, but the same thing with the Bible study. It's just that you're sharing the discussion with others. A sermon is talking to people about their lives from the Bible, not just like talking about the Bible. So an exegetical summary paragraph takes the detail, takes all of the heavy lifting that we're doing, brings it into a publicly usable format that then becomes part of your teaching event, whether that's a sermon, a Bible study, a lesson, whatever that may be. So that's going to be our key, our main methodology in this class. And let's go to, yeah, that's what I just covered. The materials then, you really need three things in this class. You need Michael Williams' Biblical Hebrew Companion for Software. It's a basic Hebrew grammar for people who use things like Logos. And the weekly reading assignments are very clearly, I think, clearly listed in your syllabus about what to read. The key is to read that assignment before the class, because we're going to be dealing with those issues. So, and I think that's clear in the syllabus.
Mike,
and then we're going to use Logos. Yes, sir.
any idea whether the bookstore here has that?
I have no idea.
They do not.
The Amazon?
Amazon.
I got mine.
Yeah.
2 days.
It's also available on Logos or in Logos.
Oh, is it
so
in
you can
Logos?
purchase
Okay.
it and use it.
Yeah,
in
I'm
Logos.
a little bit
It's
of old
15
school,
bucks.
like Neanderthal. But so when it comes to that, listen to him, not me.
Every time I get the textbook assignments, I check and see if they're available in Logos. About half the time they are. So
And make sure anytime you check a book price in Logos that you're getting the academic price, not just the regular price. You should be getting a bigger discount. If there's a question, just call Logos.
And then, so I got here a little late. I ran from the parking lot. Pardon my sweat. Right about the time that the class is over, then I'll stop sweating. And then there's one extra thing that you'll need to order from Logos, and that is the Holiday Lexicon, a concise Hebrew and Aramaic lexicon of the Old Testament. Very important. And I think with your discount, it'll be about $20. How much? $25. It is, you don't want to be studying, trying to learn and work in the original languages, Hebrew and Greek, with a lexicon that's not like the very, very, very best. And this one is one of those. So we need to all get that. So that way, the idea then would be, and if you can help them to download these versions, of course, the ESV, the NIV, the New American Standard, The new revised version, NRS, I think that's called, or NRV. The JPS, which is Jewish JPS Tanakh, which this Tanakh is the law, the Jewish Bible, the Hebrew Bible is arranged in a different order than our English Bibles are. Your English Bible follows the Septuagint order for the most part. The Hebrew Bible is divided into the law, the prophets, and the writings. And that's where this is Torah, this is Navi'im, the prophets, and this is Ketuvim, the writings. So this version, and let's see, then there is the NET, the New English Translation, and I believe then the Jerusalem. And if you can help them, I don't know, you can find out which ones of these, and it's not like life will come to an end if you don't get all of these, but as many of these as you can line up to look at, the better.
The Jerusalem or the New Jerusalem?
The new. But they're both, because all of these are people who have a high view of Scripture, great respect for Scripture, but there are different legitimate translation philosophies, So people who have a particular, in my opinion, have a particular translation philosophy, like dynamic equivalence, if you've heard of that, or the word for word, they shouldn't like try to capture the moral high ground for their camp. At least I don't think. So there's the reading assignments, and to complete them before the date. So like for the next meeting, you'll need to read pages 120 through 140. And then most class meetings will have a brief quiz and conclude with a homework assignment and info about the quiz. And then it'll go up on it'll go up or already be up on the Think Wave. And then I need to figure out, this is the mentor assignment, I'm clueless as to what that is. So when I find out what it is, then we'll make one. You bet you we'll make one then. Then the grading, 20, 40, 40, there's the grading scale. And then my phone number and email are on the top of your syllabus, so I'd be delighted if you're stuck on anything or have just call me. And just don't worry about it. I keep your grandfather's schedule. I go to bed really early and get up really early, but hey, my telephone has an off button. So if you're a night owl, just call. And it'll go to voicemail and I'll call you the next morning. Okay, so I think, any questions about the syllabus? Or anything? Oh. And then my style for class, y'all just dive in and we can dive in and talk, you know, and if I think that we're getting swerved aside into a rabbit trail, oftentimes rabbit trails are good, but also this is not my first rodeo and I'm a big enough boy to yank us back onto the trail. So y'all, we can just have a good time together. So what I've done is I've taken a couple hours and put together, since we're going to learn the nuts and bolts of Hebrew grammar and stuff like that, but we're going to be always looking at it as how it's reflected or displayed in various versions. Well, what does that mean? So I put together some samples of the issues that come up when you start reading different versions. And it's not the objective here to toss any of these translation committees under the bus, but just to realize that there are issues, that there's things going on, and here's one of them. In the beginning, of course, Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created, as we all have that verse memorized. The JPS Tanakh, the conservative Jewish has when God began to create. What's going on there? What's going on in the Hebrew? Why does it say when? Well, there is something. And then the NRS, the New Revised Standard, in the beginning when. Why that? What difference does it make? Genesis 1:6, let there be a firmament. And then ESV, let there be an expanse. What is an expanse? Well, the NIV has let there be a vault. Why do they have that as compared to firmament? And the NRS has the word dome. So what's going on there? There's some lexical work there, understanding what's going on in the lexicon and the theological word books, the theological dictionaries. Genesis 2:6, here's another one of those lexical issues. The King James, a mist went up from the earth and watered before Adam was created. ESV, a mist. The NRS, a stream. That's not a mist. And NIV, streams. What's going on there? Here's another one that I put in this morning, this afternoon. So the priests and the prophets and all the people laid hold of Jeremiah. Jeremiah really he didn't like his job at all. They were hassling him all the time. And so they said, you shall die. Well, in the NIV and NAS, it's you must die. In the net, it's you deserve to die. And there's something in the Hebrew grammar, the grammatical structure, that brings out this variety. And we'll be learning that. This is another one of the same. This is the same grammatical issue. See here, this one here is more extreme, and this one is kind of basic. They're all looking at the same Hebrew. This is another example of that, to where there's the same exact type of structure in the Hebrew. And here's the scripture, Old Testament honoring Jews, except they don't see Jesus there, but they do have a high regard for their Hebrew scriptures. It says, no, that if you put me to death. ESV, no for certain. The Net Bible, you should take careful note of this. And they're all dealing with the same chunk of Hebrew syntax. Syntax is words placed next to each other. They're all dealing with the same phrase. This is a different kind of an issue. Here in Isaiah, the end of 43, going through halfway or so through 44, this is the same verb. And I want you to notice that in this case, the ESV folks have translated that same verb when it's talking about the Lord having formed his people. It's using the word formed, but when it's talking about idol worshipers fashioning their images, it's translated fashions. And is there anything lost or gained by translating them differently? Why is that being done? What would the message be if they were translated the same? I think there's something very profound that is actually missed by translating them two different ways. This is another interesting one. This gets a genitive is where you place two nouns next to each other, like the movie Princess Bride, the cliffs of insanity. That's a genitive, cliffs and insanity. And like if we said the shirt of Mike, or the chair of the library. And there's when we do a genitive, it can mean all sorts of different things when we slap two nouns next to each other. So I just want you to notice that, and I have an opinion as to who's correct here, but I'm not going to burden you with that information at this time. But I want you to notice that this genitive, it's Zion and herald of good news. Those are the two, it's one word, herald of good news. And these people, the way these people translated it, Zion is the one who heralds the good news. Same exact Hebrew, these people translated it, Zion is the one having the good news heralded to them. They're like opposites almost. And they're looking at the same text. What's the deal with that? Here is another one, the ESV, that Israel might be gathered the King James that Israel might not be gathered. Huh? Now this is probably right, and this is these guys were working a long, long time ago, 1611 or something, and a lot's been learned. So these guys are probably the winners in our competition, their interversional competition. The ESV wins in this one, King James, by technical knockout. Here's an interesting one. This is the curse language after the fall. Dust you are made, dust you shall return, etc. And the Eve is being said in the NIV, your desire will be for your husband. In the ESV, your desire shall be contrary to your husband, which I'm not sure what that means. Your urge shall be for your husband. That's kind of like this one. And this one is you will want to control your husband. And they're all looking, they all have a high view of Scripture. They're all looking at the same Hebrew. And this is one I did this afternoon. And this is another lexical one where we're just looking at one particular verb that's in Psalm 119 about 8 times. And I just want you to look at the variety in the way that it's been translated. So this, give me life, preserve my life, keep me going, I've got this life, now keep me going. This one, revive me, this is like, well, I've lost something, some energy, and I need for the Lord to crank me back up. And this one, apparently this one is more like, there's something bad that's coming, and please protect me from it. So there's variety here. I'm not here this evening to say, well, these guys are right, these guys are wrong, but these sorts of things are all over the place, and we're going to learn to deal with them with a little bit of savoir-faire.
It might help some of them if you explain what you mean by lexical.
Okay, lexicon is a word book. So when you order that holiday lexicon, it's going to have Hebrew words and then English translations that are done with so much research that if you read the introduction, it'll just blow you away. It's really good. And so it's looking at the word, and it can be translated these different ways. That's a lexical issue. Some of these are syntactical issues, where this word and these things are lined up in order, and they're being taken different ways. Lexical issues are where we're looking at one word, and what are the different ways that word can go. So I think that so we could go all class time just looking at just a very few of these issues, but we must move on. But that's the essence of our methodology. We're going to be learning about Hebrew grammar and stuff, and then we're going to be looking at it in these variations and agreements in the English versions, and we're going to be working together, smushing those things together, and then learning how to come up with these exegetical summary paragraphs that takes the research in a relevant, clear way that's also an academically robust way, but intelligible to your audience. That's the end product that we're going to be working on producing for whatever your ministry area is, whether it's preaching, teaching, Sunday school, discipling youth, whatever your ministry is. So any questions before we move forward and get closer to actually learning now? There's only 23 letters. It's not all that. They're just weirdly shaped. But they're phonetic, just like English. So it's just, there's only 23. Yeah.
Those 23 include both consonants and vowels?
Just consonants.
Okay,
And then
so
there's
23 consonants.
plus vowels, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So,
But the vowels were added later.
right.
Yeah. And since this is not a class where you have to memorize different forms of verbs and be able to reproduce all those, like in the standard way of studying Hebrew, you'd have to write down the verb I run, you run, they run, she runs, we all run, and you'd have to write them all down with correct vowels. Since we're not doing that here, I hope I'm not just leading you down a primrose path. I don't think the vowels are going to be that big of a deal.
Okay.
Now, that's coming from someone who started studying Hebrew in 1979, but I don't think they're all that big of a deal. They're just weirdly shaped mostly. Any other questions? Okay, so biblical Hebrew is not like a magic language that was lowered from heaven on a hook. Biblical Hebrew is a Canaanite. Am I blocking? Can y'all see? Okay. It's a Canaanite dialect. So let's sneak up on that for about 5 minutes. Yes.
I've always heard it termed as a Semitic language.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, this is a subset of that.
Oh.
And so let's just look at a little bit of terminology. The Levant is the territory around the eastern. So here, this is Turkey. This is where the Hittite Empire was. And so this is Turkey today. This would be Greece today, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran. And so here is this area here. This is the Mediterranean. So here on this shore, this is the Levant. That's called the Levant. And Canaan, or Palestine, is this little area right in there. So in that little neck of the woods, there were some tiny, tiny little kingdoms, one of which was Israel. And they had, we're going to look at the family tree here for just a second of these languages. And they, very small little kingdoms. And they had languages that they could understand one another, sort of like Germans and Dutch can sort of understand one another. So let's just look at, you mentioned Semitic, and you won't be tested on this, but I just want to give you what we're doing this for now, the next 5 minutes, because there's only 23 letters, and I need to take up the whole class time. There's only 23 letters. And we have, what time is this? We have 90 minutes. Do we usually do a break?
Yep.
What time?
Whenever they fall asleep.
So, the global category is Afro-Asiatic languages. And that would be this whole, so this is where like the ancient Sumerians used to live, the Babylonians, the Assyrians. So this whole zone going down into Africa and over, not all of Africa, but the northern third of Africa is the Afro-Asiatic language group. And then if you divide that up, you have, for example, Old Egyptian. They speak Arabic today because of the Muslim conquests, but before then they had their own little language. And then over here you have the Semitic, and the Semitic languages would be this zone going down over here and up like this. So, but not going into Africa except just a little bit. That would be the area of the Semitic languages. And then it divides into east and west. And I'm going to slide this over because I'm going to run out of space. Eastern Semitic. And the East Semitic languages would be the ones that are the cuneiform languages. Have you all ever seen the little wedge pieces that have been sort of wiggled into wet clay? And it's wedge writing. That's what, this is the languages of Babylon and Assyria. Yes. Okay, so now we're getting closer to the Canaanite dialects. Are you excited? Okay, good. So now the western side is divided into southwest and northwest. And I'm leaving out a bunch of detail. There's a bunch of other languages, but I'm just trying to cut to the chase. The southwestern Semitic, that's where you'd find your Arabic. And northwestern, we're just going to divide it up into two main, although there are more, we're going to divide it up into two main ones. And one would be Aramaic. And then this here would be the Canaanite dialects. And that would be Phoenician, because Phoenicia was right on the coast, right about there, right on the coast. Phoenician, Hebrew, and then if you go around the Dead Sea, on this side of the Dead Sea, you have Ammon, Moab, and Edom, three small kingdoms. So you have Ammonite, so you've got the Canaanite dialects would be Phoenician, Hebrew, Ammonite, Moabite, Edomite, Mosquitobite, and Electric. Works in the youth group. So Hebrew is God used that language to give us his word, but it's not like a magic language. It's a language. English, modern English is a language. Ancient Hebrew was, now is, in writing for us, a language. It's a language. It behaves like any other human language. So here's one other interesting piece of preliminary information, at least I find it interesting. So let's just pay attention to the middle of this. This is the development of writing. So we're going back 3,500 BC, 2,000 BC, 1,000 BC, that would be the time of King David. So this would be about the time of like Moses right there, give or take. And let's just pay attention to the middle. And you can find this is all, you know, you look this up on the Google machine, everybody can find this if you want it. So this cuneiform, I want you to look at how complicated the cuneiform was to write. So just look at how complicated those signs are. And then think about how many letters are there in the Hebrew alphabet?
23.
Yeah, that's less than the English alphabet. To be able to write in this is Akkadian, which is the Babylonian Assyrian language. To be able to write in this language, you had to memorize more than 500 different signs. So that's a lot. So this is what I find fascinating. So let's go down to the time when these guys here conquered the Levant. So that's what you read about, the exile of the northern kingdom to the Assyrians, the southern kingdom to the Babylonians. It's these people extending their empire and conquering the Levant. And so let's go down here. So these guys have a language where you have to be a specialized scribe just to be able to even begin to write it or read it. So we're down here then, because like 722 BC was when the northern kingdom was conquered, and all the other little kingdoms, the Moabites, Mosquitobites, or like all those other ites, they're all getting wiped out by this huge machine. So they start on military adventures to their west, toward the Levant, and they run into this is the Proto-Canaanite alphabet, which Hebrew is a descendant of that Canaanite alphabet. And they run into this, they have like more than 500, really complicated, and they run into these people whom they're in the process of creaming. But they say, bro, these people only have 22 letters in their alphabet, because it was 22. So we need that. So that's how Aramaic, if you've done like reading and stuff, how Aramaic became the trade language of that whole region during the time of Jesus, and before that in the Persian period before that. So Aramaic took over which is the Northwest Semitic language, very close to the Canaan. It used the Canaanite alphabet. Aramaic used the Canaanite 22-letter alphabet. So this conquering army sees that these little people that we're in the process of killing, they have a better program linguistically than we do. Because these people invented a 22-letter alphabet approximately around the time of Moses. And so Hebrew is a descendant of that. So one other interesting factoid, and then we're going to actually learn the alphabet, which is only 23 of them. And that is that your English alphabet is of Canaanite descent. The Philistines, in the book of Judges and 1 Samuel, the judges are going up against the Philistines, and Saul and David are going up against the Philistines. And if you look at how the Septuagint, which is the ancient Greek translation of the Old Testament, if you look at how the Septuagint translates the names of the Philistines, there's different people groups that were the Philistines, you can tell that they're Greeks. Painting with a broad brush, they were Greeks from that general area. So they said, hey, these people they brought it back to the Aegean area. And then the Romans, of course, borrowed that same from the Greeks. And then Northern Europe, the Germanic languages and stuff, among which English is one, borrowed. So the English alphabet comes from this alphabet. So here's an example. Remember we sang, and y'all sang pretty well. Aleph, Bet, Gimel. There's a reason for that, but it's we'll skip it. It's TMI. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, which sounds kind of like an E. Okay, let's go over here. So Yod, Iota, Aleph, Alpha in the Greek alphabet, Beta, and so on, Gimel, Gamma. It carries out to where your English alphabet, and this is not something like I made up while I was driving here this evening, your English alphabet is of Canaanite origin, which is kind of interesting, I think. Okay, so now let's learn the alphabet. Here's Martin Luther saying y'all should learn this stuff and not mess around. So he says, I myself am convinced that without knowledge of studies, and he means getting literary with the Bible, pure theology can by no means exist. In other words, doing exegesis might actually be helpful in our development of theology, perhaps. There has never been a great revolution of God's word unless God had first prepared the way by the rise and flourishing of languages and learning, just like this august group of fine-looking people here tonight. So here we go. Get out a few pieces of paper, and we're going to learn the alphabet. And the first one is Aleph. And the pronunciation of Aleph is either silent, if it's at the end of the syllable, or it's a glottal stop, which, like when you say the word hour, in the back of your throat, you dam up the air a little bit. Hour, you stop. It's just a little click, like a Cockney accent. Bottle. I watched a little bit of golf with my mother Sunday right before dinner, and there was this British golfer and he does not have an Oxbridge. It's not an Oxbridge accent. He's got a Cockney, and he skips. He goes bottle. I was trying really hard to, and that's all it is. That's what an Aleph is. So let's try to say bottle. That little click. That's all that the Aleph is. And the way you write it, the way you handwrite it, is so we have a couple of imaginary lines, and you make a straight line like that, and then you go like that. So it's almost like a twisted up X a little bit. And some people would make it a little more artsy, like that. But to me, that's too much work. That's 3 lines. But if you want to do it that way, then I won't try to stop you. But so that's your olive. So these are all okay olives. So just make a few.
Is there like a uppercase, lowercase
No.
kind of thing?
No, there is not. So then the way it's transliterated or transcribed is just like this. And why is that important? Because we talked about the secondary literature. And a lot of times the secondary literature will not put this because they're wanting to be able to sell their books to people who've never had this. So you'll only have it transcribed into English. We'll get more into what that means. And the second one is bait, olive bait, and it's just a B. And here's how it looks. We'll make some more imaginary. And you make a curved line like that, and you put a little bottom on it like that. So these are all good baits. And if it has a dot in it, then it's a hard B, b. If it has no dot, it's a soft B, which would be a v instead of b, but that's the hard or plosive. And then the it'd be my brain just skipped a beat. It'd be non-plosive. So B or V sound, and it transliterates as a B.
Say it again.
B or V.
No, pronounce B-E-T-H again.
Bait.
Okay.
Yes, all this bait. And so if you like here is the Hebrew word for house. Bayit. Okay, and so you might be reading a book about something, a commentary, and what they will assume that you haven't, because by next week you're going to be able to read that like ringing a bell, and they will assume that you haven't had that. So why learn the transliteration or the transcription into English? Because what you'll see instead is this. That's what, and it'll be italicized in the book or in the commentary. So you need to be able to read both. Okay, the next one is G, Gimel. Gimel, and it's just a G. And actually it has the same hard G sound whether it has the dot or not. There was once a time in ancient Hebrew way back where it made a difference between G and J. But in the modern Western way of studying Hebrew, in Western academia, there's no longer a hard or soft G. So it's just G. And it looks like this. So these, and notice this is only taking up half of the space. It's only half as wide as the bait or the olive. So it's like this is a full-size width, and that's half. And some of you will make it a sharper curve on the top because everybody's brain and hand works a little different. But as long as we can communicate with each other, everybody's just like writing English. Everybody's letter G looks a little different from everybody else's. And as long as it's within those general parameters, then everything works fine. So that one doesn't go from hard to soft. It's just hard. You know, English is hard too for people who try to learn English. They just to know whether it's a hard G or a soft G. My dad used to be an international, and he'd have these guys from other countries saying, "No, we can't do that. That would be jambling." You know, it's really hard. Language is hard going from one language to another, no matter what it is. Okay, this is another one that does not change the dot. It doesn't change, it's just always a D. So the Dalit is 2 strokes down and across, down and across, down and across. And don't try to do it with 1 stroke because this is the way an R looks, okay? That's an R. So if you try to do it with 1 stroke, you can't do it. Because you have to have this little serif, you know, a non-serif, a sans serif font, like Arial. Okay, you have to have this little serif there. There's a serif, this sticks out, this part sticks out. So to make, that's the key for making a Dalit. And whether it has the dot or not, it's just a D sound. D as in dog.
Is the bait supposed to have that little tail on it as well?
Yeah, but it's not as crucial because there's not,
Doesn't look like anything else.
as long as you make this a straight, that's curved and that's straight.
Yeah.
And this one is, yeah, it does have a serif there, but as long as that's a 90-degree 2 strokes rather than 1, because if you try to do a bait with 1 stroke, you'll make a K. So it's bait, the bait is a 2-stroke thing. And I'll comment on your quizzes and stuff to help us all, because, it's okay, everybody's gonna make a few mistakes and that's okay. What time, should we take a break? Is now a good time for a break? Let's take, how long do we take? 10 minutes?
Well, if you take 10, you know what they'll do.
We'll take 20. Okay.
So what do you
Okay,
really
let's-
want to take, 10?
Okay, let's be back when that clock says 5 after, because we're starting. When that says 5 after. Okay, break.
One request I have of you guys is when the class is over, if you remember to reset the library up the way it's supposed to be. First year students don't know what I'm talking about. You guys have been here for a while, you know what I mean?
Because we're the so that's
So here's an example of what my older son did in this school back, and he got away with it, and it really wasn't dangerous or harmful. Him and a buddy snuck into the bell tower with a water balloon launcher. So, and that's kind of here in the 8th grade, that's kind of, but I don't think that Dan Pelletier's daughters would have stooped that low.
I'm going to FaceTime you a little bit before.
Dan doesn't want to know.
So,
They didn't.
like in 9 minutes, checking into their.
And there were people fishing in the pond. So they were sending, and they didn't know. Oh, there's a big one over there.
You mentioned
Sure.
Jerusalem Bible.
Yeah.
You looked at the New American Bible.
I haven't.
It's much more accurate than yours.
Well, I'm just-
Really did a good job on that one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to throw up different options.
We had a, I would call this on that, we had a translation course
Uh-huh.
from the United Bibles, and we taught them how to do that. One of the things that they pointed out to me, which was really interesting, is that the translations, one of the reasons for the difference in the wording is copyright infringement. When a translation committee gets together, they have to have all those translations, so they don't copy somebody else's already done. So they have to change it four sometimes.
Yeah.
Forcing does not mean that they
Yeah. I hadn't thought of that, yeah.
Yeah, when you're standing up, especially when you're...
Yeah.
It's hot in here though. It's hot.
Do you need to change any data on these people?
I've got them done first class. I'll get them changed in the system. Ignore those two because I didn't see that. Get them down here.
Does this get printed out every week?
No,
Okay.
but you can print this out from.
Okay, yeah.
It does. How do you
We moved back in February. and we're-
So I signed up for the academic,
My mom,
whatever
I
thing,
think, to figure
a
out
long time ago.
Okay, you probably need to renew that.
Okay.
Just call the academic sales department,
Okay.
and if there's any question, contact the department store student.
Well, I'm not, I'm not sure, but I travel a lot.
Yeah,
on
because it
weekends.
should show up with the academic prices otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would just automatically be on my profile.
Right. Yeah, because I think you've got to renew that every 6 months to show that you're still a student.
And you had someone say.
Most likely, you're not listed that way right now.
Baptize my, that's unique.
You were the only, all my other children were born, I've got four.
Yeah.
They were baptized in the last one.
Yeah, is that where that's where you came at? And what do you do? How are you?
Moving out there and things.
So what kind of IT do you do?
For a civil engineering.
That's interesting.
I worked.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna rest my legs.
They asked me to relocate 4 years ago. I
So
said,
is there a lot of CAD stuff you have to make sure that runs okay?
yeah, I can't usually, but we kind of manage the contracts and license server and all that stuff. So I'm just, we are going back in, guys. So it's me and the guys, really small school.
The seminary that I work with in Russia, we're a super small shop.
Where-
So I sort of am the IT. I do the website
Yeah.
and I do, so it's not really IT, but I have to,
Yeah, we're allowed
I have
hats.
to use Squarespace.
Yeah, yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's
All the
much smaller.
Yeah, where's their office?
Yeah, we're in Marietta.
Well, that's a trip. Where do you live?
I live up in
So do you control your own hours though? Do you work from home?
They want to see my face.
Yeah.
I sit in all day. I go up and say some weird for that. So it's not just.
You're not bored.
Yeah, see, it's kind of wild. HVAC contracts, not very much. There was a lot of
That's good. Was there a lot of chaos with the See, that's what, on the US side, there was total, so I do coordinate the board of directors, all the budget, I don't know, but it was really,
Surface a lot. Does she have a direct deposit? She used to. Anna always, she had a nice service about it.
yeah, we still do,
Now we
we're
got
just
Anna
now,
with graduations and all that stuff. So I don't know.
but we made a temporary, for now, we're gonna use the database inside QuickBooks as our CRM.
She did. But Lily used the Surface last
Yeah.
year, but I think.
And, because right now, we don't have all of our
That's
data.
because she was.
Like on MailChimp, we have like a
But it was
budget.
better than that.
And we only have the names and email.
But now she has.
But it's just fair.
It's all,
Big mess.
it is. It is.
It
It is.
Oh, yeah.
It's my business, I get paid for this campers.
You've been there, what,
So you got, how many kids do you have?
2,000.
And what are their ages?
Brand new
Oldest.
for school, yeah, stuff.
Okay. So she's like 20?
Yeah, exactly. What did she use?
They're all.
What did she use before that? She had a, which was still fine. Right. And Lily has
A while ago.
2006.
Yeah. Oh, it was a long time.
Yeah. She has a lot older one. But it's, she's
It is.
has
Yeah.
like a Now Anna's was more like 9. Yeah, but it should still be fine.
Because it's all in the evenings and stuff.
Right.
How about that?
Honestly, it's a shorter path.
Yeah.
I'm always really
Wednesday.
about
I need lots of
Okay, all right.
We'll find time.
Sean had this one before.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
plays
I
into
like
a lot.
that.
yeah, that's good.
They like this one. So, yes, but David wants to.
Remember, it's a left-hander. When you're writing.
Exactly.
These two people can't see.
Yeah, work with it while you're there.
Yeah, maybe we
The other
should rearrange
cool
the
thing about
desk.
Or if you can put it up on the
textbook in, I say Logos.
We can rearrange the desk.
Well, I'm gonna just say
This over.
Um,
this would be pretty good.
The cool thing about having it in there is that as you're finding there to be something that you really want to remember, especially if it's such a passage. Makes it very easy to.
So you all go together?
We do. So that
You,
years from
Cheryl,
now,
or Richard,
when you're
or
reading that
Patrick.
same passage in Isaiah 35, you've got this little sort of
So your-
fact there
your-
that's telling
your
you,
brain-
oh, you learned something important that you wanted to remember. And it's
You have
right
your little
there
thingy up?
all the time.
I need to get that.
So it just makes it easy to work together with resources.
Garrison and Colin
It's really
and
not.
Fish. Yeah, that's you over there.
But it,
Yeah.
but there is a little bit of learning. Once you get over that learning curve, you're like, oh, okay, this is the same. Yeah, it's not that hard.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Hey, Ryan.
And how do you find it? You just search for the.
Yeah, so you go to logos.com to their bookstore.
Oh, God.
And yeah, you can't find it within the Logos software.
Sure, and then I think we're gonna start back.
Will that be part of the lesson next Monday? How to order it on Logos?
It's nothing that I've done much of.
Be helpful.
You go to the website.
Okay,
Uh-oh.
sign in as the same dimension.
so the next letter,
He'll show up.
so we,
I don't know what that is.
let's reconvene. The next letter is the H, and it's called, it's hay. And it's just like the English word hay. And you make it with two strokes, like that. And you can see a little bit of air between that one and that one. It's a two-stroke. And you don't want these to touch because then you'll make a chet. Okay, so there's got to be a little bit of space. And it's just an H, so it'll transcribe into English as an H. And behaves just like an English H. And the next one is Vav, like the English word mauve. And it takes up, you remember how the Gimel is only a half width thing? Like this is a full width. And the Gimel that we made the G, is only a half width. The Vav is like that. The Vav is a half width. And it's just a little tiny little line with a hook. So these are all decent Vavs. It's got a little bit of a curve to a little hook on the top. And it sounds like a V as in victory.
Mike, it looks a little bit like the transcribed Aleph, is that minor difference or?
I don't understand the question. Oh, okay, the Aleph, that's the way it's going to show up in English. So like when there's a word with an Aleph in it,
Oh, it just, okay, that one.
yeah, okay. Yeah. So the key with making a vav is that you don't want it to go below the line. You don't want to make it too long because then it'll look like an and. So if we imagine that we have lines like college rule note paper or something. So there's a vav, and just make a bunch of them on your paper, and it transcribes as a W.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by transliteration?
Okay, so let's say you're reading a commentary, and the commentary is written for people who have not and who don't know how to read these letters.
Got it.
Because one of the things y'all are going to learn to do is with relative ease to read and pronounce the letters, because it's just a matter of repetition. It's all it is. To program your brain to see an H there just from repetition. And but a lot of commentaries or theological dictionaries, they're written to include your friends who haven't had any Hebrew at all. So instead of writing, let's see, like here's a word. This is the word for tent. That's an L. So there's tent. It's ohel, which is tent. What they will do is in the commentary, they'll write it like this. That's what you'll see usually in italics, because they're trying to sell their books to people who don't know this. So that's why it's a profitable endeavor to not just learn this and that it makes a V sound, but to also know this, because that way you're more able to approach various kinds of secondary literature. Because sometimes it'll be Hebrew. A lot of times these days it won't be. But if you're looking at something older. Okay, next the Z. And the Z is like a vav with a little hat on it. So it's kind of like that. Zion is the name. It rhymes with crayon. And it's a half-width letter. And that's what it looks like.
Is it like Zayin or is it like Zion?
It's Zion.
Zai.
Zion. But because actually if you say Zion and just say it faster,
Okay.
then it'll be the same exact
Zion.
thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's it. That's the Z. And it sounds like a Z, and it transcribes as a Z. And then here's the chet. So remember, this is the H, the hey. And if you join these together, if you make this first line longer, then you have a chet. And it's so it's like this. It's a two-stroke letter, and it looks like that. And it is, English doesn't have this phoneme, doesn't have this sound, modern English, because it would be like the Scottish loch. So it's kind of like you're catching the back of your throat, like that.
Question, is the Zion, is that a half as wide one?
It's a half width, yeah. Yeah.
Can you draw that one more time?
Which one?
The Zion.
Yeah, let me get more space here.
It looks very similar to the Vav.
Yeah, it does, except the hat on the Zion goes off on both sides.
Okay.
So if you look, let's go back. You see, there's the Vav,
Uh-huh.
and there's nothing going off on that side, and that's the key difference.
So it's supposed to have a little wiggle to it?
Yeah, it depends on, I just don't have time to make that. But some of you have so much prettier Hebrew letters than mine, and it'd be great. Yeah, you can have a wiggle. The thing is, it's half width, and the hat goes off on both sides.
Okay, okay.
And so the chet, and the key with the chet is, so these are Zions. And you need to keep it short. You need to keep the hat small, or you could accidentally make a D, a dalet. See, because if you're just kind of, your mind is wandering and you say, well, that's my Zion. Is no, that's, you made a dalet.
Okay.
So here's the H, there's the Hey, and here's the Chet. And so this stroke here is the same. And the difference is that that connects. And the book that you get has all of this, all this in it. And also in Logos, there's all sorts of examples of the alphabet. And we'll repeat too if there's something that you know, the way I want to do the exegesis classes, the next 2 semesters, is it's not going to be a repeat of this, but we're constantly going to be dipping back into this stuff that we covered this semester and carrying it forward rather than having like a giant divide between them. We're going to constantly repeat and go back. Okay, the next one is a T, and it's tet. Tet is the name of the letter tet, or take. Okay.
Here's an eraser.
Huh?
Here's an eraser.
Oh, fantastic. So the tet, it takes up a full space, and it's like a U that curls in on itself. It's a U that curls in on itself. And some of you will have it more square on the bottom. And either all of these are legit. So it takes up the full space, and it's like an English U that curls in on itself, and it curls in on that side. And it transcribes as a T with a dot. If you go back to around the time of, say, David, 1000 BC, they had more than one kind of T. They had an emphatic, they had more than one kind of S. They would have a standard S and then an emphatic S. And they don't do that anymore. It's not, the way Hebrew is studied and analyzed these days in academia all around the world, and for the most part in modern Hebrew, they don't do the emphatic. And I'm not even sure. If someone tells you that they think they know exactly what that sounded like, then what you should do is raise one eyebrow like Leonard Nimoy. Because they're blowing smoke for the most part. So it's a T, and it looks like a U that curled in on itself. And then this is a tiny little one, and it's the Y. It's the Y, and all it is that. So if you made a vav, and then you erase the bottom 75%, you'd have a yod. And it's just a Y.
It just floats in the air.
It floats up in the air, yes. Floats up in the air. And it's a Y. And this is your K. And there's 3 letters that change the pronunciation when it has the dot. The dot is called a dogesh. And dogesh is Hebrew for dot. So there's 3 letters that change pronunciation with the dot. The bait, b, v, b, v, and the kaf, k, ch, k, ch, k, ch, ch. Sounds almost, to me, it sounds the same as a chet. So we have the hey and the chet, and this is the hard kaf and the soft kaf, and they're pretty much the same. This is the same as the chet. And the other one that's different with the dot is the P sound, which will be there in a couple minutes.
Which one is the hard sound?
Pardon me, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah, calf. This is calf.
Calf.
Or calf.
Calf.
Either one. Really.
We won't spend too much time on that one.
No, it's either,
Okay, good.
it's more, yeah, more toward the kaf.
Okay.
But, you know, if people are talking, Hebrew scholars are talking, and it says, well, you know, that's a kaf there, the vowel in the middle is going to sound different. And no one's going to say, you didn't say kaf correctly, you know, kaf, kaf, it's kind of,
So the dot goes with the K and the non-dot, sorry, goes
Yeah.
with the CH.
yes, just like with the
Okay.
the dot makes it a plosive, which is just, that happens in one instant, like k and b. And the non-dot makes it one that spreads out over time. A fricative is what that's the fancy word. Oh, by the way, Wikipedia's linguistics section is really good. So they explain linguistics really well. So like if you, this is the fricative and this is the plosive. So if you just have too much time on your hands someday this week, and you go to Wikipedia, fricative, and you look up that word, they'll have a really good explanation of what it is, really short. So we're going to be throwing around a lot of linguistic terms, and well, you can ask a question, hey, what is that? And you can also, Wikipedia is very helpful on this stuff. There's a lot of things where you can't believe Wikipedia on certain areas where you really need to kind of be careful with what you're reading. Linguistics isn't one of them. So this is your kaf, or kaf, and it just looks like that. It's pretty much rounded off. This one is getting dangerously close to being a bait. These are more curvy. This one is a little bit too right angular, because that could almost be, particularly if you the tail, then you've got a bait. So this one's probably not good. Okay, and it transcribes as a K. And here's the L. And I first taught Hebrew in Dallas, so I put in Dallas Cowboys terms, and then I would sneak in Georgia Bulldog terms. Definitely never a University of Texas term, never. And the top of the lamed goes up above the line, although if you make it where it's not above the line, your life will continue as it always has been thus far. But as long as we can understand what you're writing, but it's like something like that. Let's see if it's like that. That's okay. That's okay. So it is the only. So it's an L. The only thing that's weird about it is it's a weird shape, but it's just an L. Just an L. Transcribes as an L. Sounds like an L. And here's the M sound, and the name of it is mem. Mem. And you make it like this. So you'll be making a few. Make some practice ones. So you go up and down and over a little bit, and then put a doohickey up here on the left. And this script that we're learning here is it's called the Aramaic script. And if you go back to the earliest Hebrew script, it wasn't exactly shaped like this. So the word for water is mayim. And a lot of these that we've been looking at were pictograms originally. So this is what the meme, some of the oldest memes look like that. You can see the waves. And they figured out that we're going to represent an M sound with the word for water because it starts with an M. And that's what it's called the acrophonic principle. And these Canaanite dudes and chicks invented it. It's really pretty cool. So there's an M. And it transliterates or transcribes as an M. And you make two strokes, one like that and then one like that. And then here's another half-width one. This is the half-width, and it's the N. It's called noon, and you go like that. It's half-width, so it's kind of skinny. Because if you make it too fat, like here, I'll make my noon too fat. What could it almost look like? A calf or a bait, yeah. So the idea is they're pretty sharp angles. They can curve a little bit, and it's half width. And it has to have this on it, on the bottom, because if I forget that, then what have I made? A vav. Yeah, there's some simple rules that get the right ingredients in, and then it will be able to, everybody can understand everybody's Hebrew writing.
And all of these take up the full space.
Yeah, this is
except
a half.
for
This is a half space.
The Y. I'm talking about up and down,
Yes.
except for the Y.
Well, the lamed sticks up above.
Yeah.
Although if it doesn't stick up, it's okay, because we can understand it. And yeah, the yod is just a little deal hanging up in midair. Yeah. Okay, so that's an N. And then this is another S, because they had several S's. But in the modern pronunciation, they've all coalesced into just S. And this is called Samik. And it is like that. And what it's the Greek letter, you know, the Greeks got their alphabet from because the Philistines were Aegean people. The Greeks got their sigma, Samik, sigma, pretty close. And because this is just a backward sigma, if you've had Greek, this is just a backward sigma, which is kind of amazing when you think about the linguistic history of it. And it's an S with a dot. No, wait, no, it's just an S. Pardon me, just an S. Just an S. Pronounced like an S, as in 7. Samik. And it has to have a little, serif on it. Does it make sense? Questions? Make sense? Okay. This one's a little tricky to make. It's a 2-stroke letter. It sounds exactly like the aleph. It's like the word hour. If you didn't close off your throat when you tried to say the word hour, it would just sound kind of weird. Hour. It's like, what's wrong with it? You know? So we're damming up the back of our throat. Hour. And that click that opens it up in the back of your throat is a glottal stop. And an ayin, although going back into ancient times, it was different. In modern times, it's the same as an aleph, it's a glottal stop. When you make it this way, I'm trying to put some variety in because just like with our English handwriting, you guys are going to make, your ayins are going to look, everybody's ayin is going to be a legit ayin, but they're all going to look different from each other. Just like if you all made an M, all your M's would be an M, but they'd all be a little different. And that's okay because we're not machines. So you have a downward stroke kind of going over, and then a line that connects, and it's a full space, full width. and it's just a glottal stop. And it transcribes the opposite. So the aleph transcribes this way, the ayin transcribes that way. Okay, so there's 3 letters that the dot changes the way it sounds. The bait, with the dot it's a plosive, but without the dot it is a fricative, and then the kaf, with the dot it's a plosive, without it's a fricative, and then the pay, with the dot it's a plosive, and without it's the fricative. And you make it like this. So the goal is for us over the next few weeks so where we can, when you run into, as you're looking at, say you have your interlinear running on your logos. Interlinear has the Hebrew and the English, and then you have your lexicon running, and you see that Hebrew word. Right now it's like when I look at Chinese, or it's like nothing. Nothing registers. But where you can see, oh, that's a word. I know how to pronounce that word. And that becomes just easy, and then you're just working with the secondary literature, and you're just kind of in the zone. And it's fun. Okay, so this is a pay. And some of them will be more squared off, but these are all okay pays. And then some of them are going to have the dot, and that's the P. Some of them don't have the dot, and that's the F.
So when they're transliterating it, you're going to make it a P no matter what?
Exactly.
Even if it's...
Yeah, actually, the way they translate, what I'm trying to get more detail, I don't think we need to do this, is that when it's this, they put that over it.
Okay.
But I think that we can get by without having to do that.
Yeah. But that's going to tell you it's a fey.
It's a pay.
Wait.
You're going to see that. I don't think that you need to know that distinction to be able to read the secondary literature and understand it.
Sure. Gotcha.
So I'm trying to not pile up too much information.
Yeah.
So with the dot, it's pay?
No, it's just called pay. It's just pay.
With the dot, it's called pay?
It's called pay all the time.
Oh, okay.
All of them are called the same thing all the time.
Okay.
But
So
when you're-
the F for the following.
When you're reading a letter, a word, okay.
Got it.
Okay, so this is the word for where. This is one of the words for where. Where is Eifo David? Where is David? Okay, since there's no dot, it's not Epo David. It's Eifo David. So it's always called a pay, though. I hope
Right,
that-
okay, so I'm really sorry. So with
No,
the dot-
that's
with the-
all right.
Pronounce it with the dot.
Up.
Pay. Okay, and without the dot, it's pay.
Well, but it doesn't have the long A vowel after it.
Okay, it's
So you need to leave the A sound off.
okay.
And just, so with the dot, it's just like in English, P. That doesn't sound like pay.
Right.
You'd have to add this. Then it sounds like pay. Because the English P only sounds like,
Okay, gotcha.
okay.
So it's tough.
So there it's, and there it's,
Okay. Thanks.
okay, no, see, that's good, because don't just sit there and suffer in silence.
Yeah.
Because it really is very simple, but it's also bizarre. So you just have to keep banging away at it until it's clear. Okay, this is a weird one. We don't have this one in English. This is like, okay, in German, a Z sounds like TS. And in Hebrew, the TS is one consonant. And you go down and over, and then like that. Down and over, and like that. And it's called tzadeh. So it's a TS, and that's one consonant. Like in German, the TS sound is one consonant. And in Hebrew, the TS sound is one consonant. In English, it takes two. You have to draw two things to make TS. In Hebrew, and like in German, you only have to draw one thing to make TS. And that's what it looks like. So you start in the upper left, go down to the bottom right and across, and then connect it. And it transcribes as an S with a dot. So, like this would be, okay, so that's an R. We're almost to the R. This is a word for distress in the Psalms. So it's tsar, tsar. So it starts with the TS sound, tsar. In English, you'd have to write two things. In English, you'd have to say this, write that. But like in German and in Hebrew, that's one consonant. Yeah.
Have you explained why you did the down and over instead of just straight up? Like you put the T underneath you put what looks like a T underneath the TS.
I'm sorry, I don't know where you're pointing.
At the very top,
Oh, this here?
and then you came down. Why did you come down to draw a letter instead of just drawing it from
Oh, the
right to
vowels,
left?
that's a vowel.
Oh,
We're getting that next week.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Just
sorry.
had to
Next
place
week,
that.
sorry, no.
No, you're fine.
No, yeah. Yeah, we're getting that next week. But the point is that it's weird for English speakers to try to deal with TS as one consonant. Whether, young and old men and women, it's just weird. So, so this sounds like a K. It's just another K. Originally, it's not a K, but like in the way in the back, like a. But that's just far too difficult. So modern Hebrew is pronounced like a K, and this one goes below the line. It's called a kof, kof, and you go below the line, and like that.
It's not,
It
not
almost-
intersecting the line at all.
You mean right there?
No, so the two lines don't touch.
Yeah, they don't touch, but if yours does, you're still a citizen. As long as we can tell that it's a kof. Because, somebody's will touch, like, somebody will do that. But you can still tell that it's a kof. If someone's really getting to where their letter can't be, if you're just getting off the reservation, well, I'll let you know. But again, it's just like our English handwriting, to where we all are different, but we're all working within certain parameters. Except, like I used to be a really good printer. My handwriting now is horrendous. I digress. So it's just a K. It transcribes as a Q. And we're almost done. So this is your R, Resh, and this was back when Tony Romo was quarterback. So more Dallas Cowboy stuff. So the big question for tonight is, when will Ezekiel Elliott report? But that's. So this is a Resh.
What'd you say about Ezekiel?
He's holding out.
Yeah, I know.
He's out down in Cabo hanging out.
Yeah. Okay, so there's your Resh. And you want to have a little curve in it, or you'll make a dalet. Okay, so because here's the dalet, and the dalet is a straight 90-degree angle and has a serif. So there, and it's just an R. It transcribes like an R, sounds like an R. And if you go to like the society, the Net Bible, NET, that we were talking about earlier, is put together by the Society of Biblical Literature. which is a huge conglomeration of theologians. If you go to their conference and then you go to, some people will pronounce the resh with more like a French R. And I think that's, for some people, I just make an R, it's just an R. But if you want to get fancy with it and go French, we'll let you.
Can you pronounce that one more time?
It's just an R, just real.
The word, it's just resh?
Resh,
Resh.
yeah. Yeah, that's the name of the letter. Yeah, just resh. Resh. Okay, the original Proto-Canaanite alphabet had 22 letters. That wasn't enough for the Hebrews, so they needed to make to use one for two sounds, sin and shin. So that's why Proto-Canaanite had 22, Hebrew has 23. So there's sin and shin, and it's all about where the dot is. And I'm going to make, so one is an S sound and transcribes this way. The other is an SH sound and transcribes that way. So half of a caret and a caret. So you have, let's make, so this is one of the more difficult things to memorize in the Hebrew alphabet. So it's one sign. It's kind of almost like a W a little bit, where you make a cup and then you divide the cup with a line. And then so there's one. And the sin is a dot because they needed to make they were short one letter in their alphabet. So this is the sin, S, and this is the shin. So there's the SH sound, and there is the S sound. So we have, okay, so this is a sonic, and that transcribes that way. This is a tzade, TS, and that transcribes that way. This is a sin, and that transcribes this way. And this is a shin, and transcribes this way. And I'm deeply sorry for that. There's nothing I can do about it. But so there's 4 S's. Yes, indeed, there are. And the way I remembered, which one is the sin and the shin? I teach Hebrew to 4 Russian guys using Skype on Monday mornings. It's a blast. My Russian is very poor, but one of the guys is pretty good. 2 of the guys can translate. And so we're doing the alphabet and stuff, and the guy got his sin and shin backwards. Oleg, who lives in Tomsk, he got his sin and shin confused. But hey, who wouldn't? Because it's only a dot. So the way I remember is that if soldiers are marching, it's left first. Okay, left, right, left. Okay, sorry for being cheesy. But left, right, left. So the first one, sin, is on the left. And the second one, sin, is on the right. That's what worked for me. Silly little, like learning, okay, so here's the word, we're not going to be memorizing very many words, but this is the Hebrew verb to fall, and it's got the word fall in it. So that was like, hey, that was a connection. You know, any place that you can get your hooks into it. So the sin and shin, and it's all about the dot. So let's just look at them back. We're going to toggle back and forth. Sin, shin, sin, shin. So it's the same. They're just making double use. It's like if people came from some other country that had no written language and they said, aha, I'm going to use the English alphabet, but they needed an extra letter. They'd have to make something to work double duty. That's what these guys are doing here. Sin, shin. So left, right, left. Sin is first, sin, shin. And then there's the T.
They're different letters.
They are.
So now we have one more left.
They are different letters.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's 23 consonants in Hebrew. There's 23 consonants. So if I'm sorry if I've given you TMI about there were 22 in the Proto-Canaanite alphabet. And the Hebrews said, we need one more. So there's 23 in the Hebrew alphabet.
Can you go back one more slide for a second? Thank you. That's no good. I'm good.
Yeah, Sin and Sheen.
Very
So-
quickly,
so
before you
we're
get to
gonna-
the T sound, on this one over here, where you had comparing all 4 of the S sounds,
Uh-huh.
the S, so the sin and the first S,
They're the same.
same sound? Okay, thanks.
But not original, yes, today, yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are the same. Yes, they are. So, and here's the last one. And you're gonna see it with or without the dot. These days, it used to be t, but now it's just t, that's it. So there's 4 consonants that sound different, three consonants that sound different with or without the dot. There's the bait, b, v, b, v. There's the calf, k, 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 k. And then there's the pay, k, k, k. Those are the only ones that change with the dot. But you're going to see this one with a dot. So it's a T, and you make it this way. So it's like you make a resh to begin with, and then you come down and out. So Dan, I'm trying to switch sides here and there to give you, it's like making a resh and then you come down and out. Resh, down and out. Okay? So let's, and it's a T. So you really have 2 T's, because you have your tet, which is a T, and you have your tav, which is a T. So let's just practice a little bit. So get a fresh piece of paper, and let's just make the alphabet, and then I'll try to bring my guitar and sing the alphabet, because singing it helps you learn it in order too. Because what if you have to look something up in a dictionary? What if you like to have you need to know what order the things are in, so you can look something up. Okay, let's make some olives. Okay, make some olives. And it's just a glottal stop, like bottle. Make some olives, everybody join in. Okay, let's make some baits. And we got a curve, and we have a little serif on the outside. It's like a resh with something added to the bottom of it. Okay, baits. Now let's make some gimels. Everybody make a gimel. Different from a gimlet. Okay. Aleph, bait, gimel. Okay, let's make a couple of dalets. Make some hays. Hay. Aleph, bait, gimel, dalet, hay. And now we'll make some vavs. So those are all Aleph, bait, gimel, dalet, hay, vav. Make a few vavs. And now make some zayins. And okay. And now we'll make some hits. And remember, the hit you have to touch. These two, it's a 2-stroke thing. It needs to touch. Otherwise, you're making a hay. Okay, hit. And now let's make some tets, which like is the U that curves in on itself. Hit, tet. Tet, make a few of those. Good job, I can see those hands. Good job. Okay, tit. Okay, now we'll make some little tiny little yods hanging up in space. The Y. Head, tit, yod. Good, making some yods. Any questions? Okay, now we'll make some calves. And we make them pretty nice and round so we don't confuse them with other letters. Because we don't want to accidentally make a date or something and confuse people. Head, tit, yod, calf. Okay, now let's make some lamets. And some people are really very anyway. At the end of this class, after you've read the Hebrew script a lot, some of you will be able to make the prettiest Hebrew letters, and it'll really be cool. You'll be able to blow me out of the water with it. But that looks just like sounds just like the record. But the main thing is for us to be able to understand one another. Lamed, there's L, and then here's some mames, where you go up and down and in, and then make a thingy off the side. Up and down and in, a thingy off the side. Okay. We go till 10 after, is that correct? Okay, good, we're right on schedule. And so now here's some noons, they're half width. I want to make sure that I don't make them too wide, because then I might confuse them with a bait or something. Okay, and some people's noons will be more curvy than other people's, as far as the right angles. Some of them will be a little, these are all kind of in the ballpark. Okay, now here's the sonic. Okay, and then the ion, where we're going down and across and then up, down and across and then up, ion. Okay, good, y'all are working hard, good. Because once you get this programmed into your brain, it's like you're just reading a phonetic. You see the phonetic sound in the shape of the letter, and you just kind of roll. And it takes, a few weeks or whatever. Here's the pay now. Pay. The P. Pay. And then the sade, upper left to bottom right. Upper left to bottom right, upper left to bottom right. Okay, because this one you're starting in the upper right to bottom left, and going up from this one you're starting in the upper left to bottom right. And it's okay if we get that confused a couple times. That's okay. Kof. So here's the kof. Kofs, okay, and then resh, and you need to be careful that you don't make a dalet. So it's got to curve a little bit, and you don't want to make a serif accidentally. It's like there's a dalet made with a wiggly hand, because I'm drinking espresso, just like the motivational speaker. But none of y'all are going to live in a van down by the river unless you want to. So make a resh, not a dalet. And then you've got sin. That's not a very good one. Sin has the dot on the left, and then shin has the dot on the right. And then your tav, which is like a resh that has an extra thing on it. That tav is like a resh that has an extra doodad coming down. So there you go. There's your Hebrew alphabet. So let's practice let's play a little game here. I'm gonna write the consonants to some people's names who are well-known Old Testament figures. And I'm gonna write the consonants and give you some clues, about the vowels, and I want you to try to figure out what person's name I'm writing. Okay? And my point here for this is that it's very phonetic. Once you get the weird shapes into your mind, it's not complicated. It's not complicated once you get the weird shapes into your mind. Okay, we need to do one more thing because I can't do it until I cover one more thing. Here's the one more thing. Okay, look. Just to make things, here's one more weird thing about the alphabet. When you're making a kaf at the end of a word, the kaf looks like a dalet that's too long. So at the end of the word, yeah, it's ridiculous, but okay, here's the word for king, okay? Melech. Melech is king. Okay, but since this is at the end of the word, it's a final kaf. It's that. There's only 5 of them, so you know. So this is Melech, this is king. Here is the word for I. That's a final noon. So the word for I is ayin. Ayin. That's a final noon. And it looks like a vav that goes below the line. And here is the word for an ox. That's elef. There's an E that goes under there. Elef is an oxen. And this is a final P, to where it looks like a pay, but it just goes below the line. So when you're making a P, a pay, at the end of the word, it's a final pay. And here is a final tzadeh, like this is the verb to run. Like if we were saying, run, run, it would be roots, resh tzadeh with a U in there, roots. So it's shaped like a tzadeh, only instead of going back over there, it goes down. And it's only when the tzadeh happens at the end of the word. And then the final mem looks like that. So, like here's the word water. That's mayim. That's water. That's a mem at the end of the word. So you make it like this. There's a final mem. So final kaf, final noon, to where you're going down below the line. Final pay, final tzadeh, and final mem. Okay. So that it is what it is. Okay. So here is. So there's the final mem right there. I should make this more square on the top. Okay. So this is a person that all of y'all have heard of, in the Bible. And I'm going to add some vowels. And someone probably already knows who this is.
Abraham.
It's Abraham. Yeah. Yeah. Because we're going to add something, add vowels. We'll do that next week. So it's Avraham. Yeah. Okay. Okay, how about this? This is there's another person that you probably, it's David. Yeah, it's David. Let's see here. Let's do a few more.
What's that middle?
That's a Vav.
Yeah.
David.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What I'm just trying to show you is it's once you program your brain to recognize the weird letters, then it becomes a sound and a word to you, not just chicken scratch. And there's only 23 letters. Let's see. Okay.
Plus the 5.
Plus the 5. Yes,
Plus the
yes.
vowels.
Yes.
Plus the.
Can we do just subtract?
Okay, this is a little harder. No, that's too hard. Let me try to think I'm gonna try to think up one more to just for our amusement here before we conclude by singing our incredible Hebrew alphabet song. Okay. Okay, this is an O sound. I'm giving you a clue. That's an O sound. And this needs to have an A sound under it.
Amos?
It's Amos. It's the prophet Amos.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and we'll learn about that O sound. We'll do that next week. Okay.
Why is that an A? Oh, we did it right.
Oh, now all that, you're going to put the A under it. And that is just the, at the beginning. The A's going under it. It's a good question. The A's going to go under it next week.
And what's going on with that? Oh,
We're doing that next week.
okay.
So A is not a vowel.
This is an ion,
That's
and the vowel's going under it. It's,
this guy.
maybe that one was too hard. See, I'm trying to, let's see if we can find one more. Okay. Okay. Okay, here's another prophet. So this is Micah. Micah. Okay, so we'll learn the vowels next week because when they first started using this alphabet, of course they had vowels in their language because you can't say a word without vowels, but they didn't use them originally. Just like if I said, good evening. Good evening. Drive safely. Good evening, drive safely. So that's the way they did it. And then they said, wait a minute, we need, later on they said, we're going to lose our language if we don't teach the next generation how to pronounce this. So they added those things later.
Did the vowels come in when modern Hebrew was learned? Is that
No,
where
the vowels came in, we'll cover this more next week. The vowels came in, and then it's time to sing our song and talk about our homework and our quiz. Because I know y'all are jonesing to sing the song again. So here's David, 900,000 BC. Here's 1000 AD. And so they had vowels in their pronunciation all along, because you can't talk without them. They just, like I said, good evening, drive safely, that's the way they did it. They started adding a few, like here was Amos. They started saying that vav counts as an O. They started doing that over here about that time. And then they started adding all these other things, actually, about right over in here, about this time. A long time after their kingdom had collapsed, because they're saying if we don't do that, then carrying forward in the synagogue, our kids and their kids won't know how to pronounce this. We do, but they won't. So the
vowels are a purely supplemental.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not really technically part of the original language.
Well, when you look at the development of the canon, it's not like, there's some people that actually tried to say the vowel points are inspired, but and they try to make a huge issue of that. And I think that's, a tempest in a teapot. But the vowels are part of the canon of scripture that we have inherited. So it's not like we can disregard them, or we should try to separate them in our brains to where there was the consonants, and that's what we're going to do our exegesis with. That wouldn't be a healthy way to look at it. Okay, we'll get, so it's a long process. The Hebrew Bible that we're looking at today is the result of a lengthy process of maintaining the text and developing it for our use in the future. Let's look at what our homework and quiz will be. So the homework is to complete the assigned reading in the syllabus and then memorize the alphabet, including, so the quiz is going to look like this. So what you're going to have to do, Dan, can you see that? You might want to pick a different seat next week, or we'll add one out there. You're going to need to write in order, Aleph, Bey, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, and then the name of the word, the name of the letter, pardon me, and if you spell it differently, that's okay. And then how it transcribes, like a B. That's a typo.
How it
that
transcribes, huh?
Yeah, how it transcribes. I need to take that off. That's a
And
typo.
we do that for the whole alphabet.
Yeah, for the whole alphabet.
Are you able to send your slides to us?
Yeah, I can do that. Y'all have PowerPoint? Yeah. You know what? It'll go in. Google won't let me send this large of a file, so I'll have to put it on my Google Docs.
You might be able to post it on ThinkWave.
Oh, I'll post it. We'll post it. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Right where you put the syllabus, or rather, that's irrelevant. Just put it on ThinkWave, right?
Yeah. So if you spell Aleph this way, or this way, or this way, anything that's where you know how it sounds, okay? So you can Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav. So bait, if you spell bait this way, anything like that, okay? So it's just so you know how it sounds. So we know how to write the letter, and we know that it's Aleph, and we know that it's so let's do the alphabet.
So I have a question. So
yes.
for hey, we can spell it H-E, right?
Yes.
Okay.
H-E, H-A-Y.
Right, okay, because H-E sounds like he, but you're okay if we spell it H-E.
You could even get fancy and do that.
Yeah, I'll have time, I will.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so Pardon me, pardon me. Yes, yes. Stop, stop. So memorize the alphabet. Read the sign, and memorize the ending, the concluding. Yeah, I saved the wrong copy of this. I'll post it in ThinkWave. Memorize the alphabet, do the reading, and know the 3 letters that sound different: bait, calf, and pay, and the 5 final letters. And I'll send you, I'll post this. Now, but the quiz, this will be the quiz. Right there. There, well, this is what I finished. This is the quiz. Right there. So it's to be able to do that, and to know the 3 that have a different sound, and the 5 finals. So there it is all on one page.
So just a blank sheet of paper, and then we'll have to reproduce that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that you could write out the 5 finals? And just
Roll
like-
right now?
You
What do
can
you mean?
email it. I was just a little confused because everything changed. But
Can you ask the question differently?
the 5 finals, that last slide that you showed,
Yeah.
is there any way when you send it on ThinkWave, if you could explain that one more time?
I
Or is it
don't
too
know. I think that what we should do is you should call me,
Okay, I'll do that.
because that way I'll get a chance to know you better.
Okay.
Because it's so, yeah, it'll be fun to talk to you. I will need a break at some point tomorrow in what I'm
Sounds
doing
good.
for the Russia seminary. Yeah, so just call me.
Okay.
Okay?
If you guys want a quick Logos lesson, go to your library in Logos and type in Hebrew Tutor, and it shows you how to draw all these letters and the final forms.
Okay, perfect.
Just type in
Hebrew tutor.
Hebrew Tutor, and that'll bring up your Hebrew alphabet.
Yeah. Okay, we're out of time. Let's do the alphabet, and I'll try to remember to bring my guitar next week. Okay, are you ready? Da-da-da-da-da-da. Aleph, Hey, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Chet, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzaddik, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, and Tav. So you're programming your brain to get the thing in order. We'll have a,
I got the humming part down.
all right. So call me, email me if you have questions.
Thank you.
I'll just send this instead.
Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome.
You don't have it in your Logos library? Yeah. You should. No, oh, you know what? It's because you're doing that. Probably. Alright, I'm dropping that. Let me show
Yeah, I need to see it.
Because it's not a book, it's like an interactive tool. Some interactive tools you can use.